I never thought my own wife would do this to me. 3 years of marriage to Amanda, and I thought I knew her. That December evening changed everything. It was the worst snowstorm our town had seen in 30 years. Amanda's family was visiting for the holidays. Her parents, Thomas and Judith, and her brother Brian. They never fully accepted me, but I tried to make it work for Amanda's sake. When I volunteered to get more firewood from our backyard shed, I had no idea. I'd returned to find myself locked out, staring through the window at my laughing wife, and in-laws, their faces twisted with cruel amusement at my suffering. If you've ever felt betrayed by someone you loved, let me know where you're watching from. Hit like and subscribe as I share how I transformed this humiliation into the wake-up call that saved my life. I should probably back up and give you the full picture. My name is Dwayne, and I work as a construction manager, or at least I did back then. Amanda and I met at my college friend's wedding 4 years ago. It was one of those whirlwind romances where everything seemed perfect. She was beautiful, intelligent, and seemed to genuinely care about me. We got married after dating for just 8 months. From the beginning, I knew Amanda came from money. Her father, Thomas, ran a successful investment firm. Her mother, Judith, was a socialite who served on charity boards, and her brother, Brian, worked for the family business. They lived in a different world than I did. I grew up solidly middle class, worked through college, and built my career from the ground up. The first time I met her family, I could feel their judgment. They never said anything directly offensive, but there were always comments about my humble beginnings or questions about my career aspirations that made it clear they didn't think I was good enough for their daughter. At least he's hard-working. Thomas would say to Amanda while I was in earshot, as if that was my only redeeming quality. Still, Amanda defended me back then. She would tell them how proud she was of what I had accomplished without family connections. For the first 2 years of our marriage, things were good. We bought a house, nothing extravagant but comfortable, and talked about starting a family soon. Everything changed about 6 months before that fateful December night. The construction company I was managing a major project for hit serious problems. A supplier delivered faulty materials that weren't caught until after installation. The whole project fell apart, and I was laid off in the fallout. It wasn't my fault, but I was the easiest person to blame. Suddenly, I was struggling to find work. Construction jobs dried up in our area, and we had to dip into our savings. Amanda's attitude shifted almost overnight. The supportive wife disappeared, replaced by someone who sighed heavily every time bills arrived, who made comments about her friends' husbands and their stable jobs. Lisa's husband just got promoted again, she would say during dinner. They're looking at vacation homes now. When her family announced they were coming to stay with us for Christmas, I was worried, but tried to stay positive. Maybe the holiday spirit would help everyone get along. They arrived 3 days before Christmas, pulling up in their luxury SUV, laden with expensive gifts. None for me, I noticed immediately. The first night's dinner was tense. Thomas asked about my job prospects while cutting into his steak. Still, nothing lined up. Dwayne. In this economy, somebody must be hiring. Tom. I have some promising leads. I lied, not wanting to discuss my 4th rejected application that week. Maybe you should consider a career change, Judith suggested with fake sweetness. Thomas could make some calls if you were interested in something more stable. Amanda said nothing, just stared at her plate. Brian snickered. Or you could always become Amanda's house husband. Let her be the breadwinner. The second night, the night of the snowstorm, was even worse. The storm had been raging all day, piling snow 3 feet high against our doors and windows. The power was flickering, and the wind howled like something alive and angry. During dinner, the fire in our living room fireplace began to die down. The house was getting cold with the heating system struggling against the record low temperatures. We need more wood for the fire, Thomas said, looking directly at me. I can go get some from the shed out back. I offered immediately, hoping to escape the tension for a few minutes. You should probably go alone, Amanda said. No sense in everyone getting cold. In retrospect, I should have seen the warning signs. The little smirk Brian tried to hide. The way Thomas checked his watch. The strange look that passed between Amanda and her mother. I put on my coat, not my heavy winter parka, which I later realized was mysteriously missing from the coat closet, and headed out the back door. The wind hit me like a physical blow, the snow immediately blinding me. It took almost 15 minutes to trudge through the deep snow to our storage shed, load up an armful of firewood, and make my way back to the house. When I reached the back door, juggling the wood in my arms, I found it locked. I figured it had blown shut in the wind, and locked automatically, so I walked around to the front door, the cold already biting through my inadequate coat. The front door was locked too. That was when I noticed the faces in the living room window. All four of them, Amanda, Thomas, Judith, and Brian, were staring out at me. Brian was pointing and laughing openly. Amanda had her hand over her mouth, but I could see her shoulders shaking with laughter. I couldn't believe what was happening. I knocked on the door, the firewood tumbling from my arms onto the porch. No one moved to open it. Instead, Thomas put his arm around Amanda's shoulders as they continued to watch me. I knocked again, harder. Judith was saying something to the others that made them laugh harder. I saw Brian cup his hands around his mouth and shout something. Through the howling wind and thick glass, I could just make out the words, "Freeze to death, worthless idiot." The cold was seeping into my bones, but it was nothing compared to the ice forming around my heart. My wife of 3 years was laughing while I stood in a potentially deadly blizzard. The temperature was well below freezing. People died in conditions like this. In that moment, staring at their cruel, amused faces, I felt something break inside me. Not just heartbreak, but a fundamental shift in how I saw my life, my marriage, and myself. I could have continued pounding on the door, begging to be let in. I could have broken a window. Instead, I straightened my back, looked directly at Amanda, and without a word, turned and walked away. The wind cut through my thin coat like it wasn't even there as I trudged through the snow-covered streets. The neighborhood was deserted. Anyone with sense was inside on a night like this. I had my wallet and phone, but nowhere to go. My parents lived 2 states away. Most of my friends had drifted away during my marriage, something I now realized Amanda had subtly encouraged. "Jack is kind of immature. Don't you think she would say after my best friend visited? We're married adults now. Maybe we should socialize with more established couples." Each step away from the house was more difficult than the last. The snow was nearly to my knees in places, and I couldn't feel my fingers or toes anymore. My face burned with cold, then gradually went numb. I knew these were dangerous signs, but I kept walking. I tried to focus on practicalities. I needed shelter warmth. The nearest hotel was miles away, and I doubted I could make it that far in these conditions. As I passed through downtown, most businesses were closed due to the storm. Then I spotted it. The neon sign of Maggie's Diner, somehow still glowing, open 24 HRS, through the swirling snow. The blast of warm air when I pushed open the door made my frozen skin prickle painfully. The diner was empty, except for a waitress wiping down the counter. She looked up alarmed when she saw my condition. "Good Lord, what happened to you?" she asked immediately, coming around the counter. "You look half frozen to death." "I got locked out," I said, my voice hoarse from the cold. It was simpler than explaining that my wife and her family had deliberately locked me out, hoping I would suffer. "Sit down here by the heater," she said, guiding me to a booth near the kitchen. "I am Sophia, by the way. Let me get you some coffee." As the warmth slowly returned to my body, so did the reality of my situation. I pulled out my phone and saw 3 missed calls from Amanda. When it rang again, I answered. "Where are you?" Amanda demanded, not a trace of concern in her voice. "Somewhere safe," I replied. "You are being ridiculous," she said. "It was just a joke. You did not have to storm off like that." In the background, I could hear Brian laughing and someone, Thomas, I thought, saying something about no sense of humor. "A joke," I repeated. "Locking someone out in a blizzard is a joke to you." "You are blowing this way out of proportion," Amanda said. "If you had just knocked, we would have let you in eventually." "I did knock. Multiple times." "Well, we did not hear you over the wind," she lied. Anyway, you need to come home now and apologize for making a scene." I almost laughed. Apologize. For what? For overreacting and embarrassing me in front of my family, she said, as if it was obvious. Just come home, say you are sorry, and we can forget this happened. The reality of who my wife really was hit me fully then. This was not a momentary lapse in judgment. This was who she had always been, and I had been too in love, too desperate, to make it work to see it. "No," I said simply. "What do you mean no?" she snapped. "I mean no. I am not coming home tonight, and I am certainly not apologizing." She made an exasperated sound. "Fine. Sleep wherever you want. When you are done with this little tantrum, you know where to find us." She hung up before I could respond. Sophia returned with more coffee and a plate of hot food she insisted was on the house. When she saw my face, she asked quietly, "Bad news?" "Just realizing my marriage might be over," I said. She didn't pry, just nodded sympathetically. "There is a motel about 3 blocks from here. Nothing fancy, but it is clean and warm. My brother owns it. I can call and make sure he has a room for you." By the time I checked into the motel room, exhaustion hit me like a truck. I collapsed on the bed, still in my damp clothes, and fell into troubled sleep, filled with dreams of being trapped outside, pounding on windows while faceless people laughed. I woke to sunlight filtering through thin curtains and my phone buzzing with messages. 6 missed calls from Amanda. 2 voicemails. 12 text messages ranging from angry, "You are being childish," to slightly concerned. "Where are you staying?" to demanding. "My parents think you are being incredibly disrespectful." Instead of responding to Amanda, I called the one friend I had maintained despite her disapproval, Jack. He had been my roommate in college and knew me better than anyone. "Dwayne, everything." "Okay, man, it is pretty early." I told him everything that had happened. There was a long silence when I finished. "I wish I could say I am surprised," Jack finally said. "But honestly, Amanda always gave me a bad vibe. Remember how she acted when you lost that promotion last year?" I did remember. She had been coldly disappointed, focused entirely on what the lost income meant for her plans, rather than how I felt about the setback. "And this is not the first time," Jack continued cautiously. "She did something similar to her ex before you. Brad. Remember him? He told me once that she locked him in the garage overnight when he said something that embarrassed her at a party. Played it off as a joke when she let him out the next morning." This new information stunned me. "Why did you never tell me this?" "I tried to hint at it before your wedding," Jack said. "But you were so happy, and I did not want to be that guy who trashes his friend's fiancé. I figured maybe she had changed." "Can I stay with you for a few days?" I asked. "Just until I figure things out." "Already making up the guest room," he replied, without hesitation. When I arrived at Jack's apartment, he took one look at me and handed me a beer despite the early hour. "You look like you need this, brother." I told him more details about the past few months. How Amanda's attitude had completely changed. When my career hit a rough patch. How her family had always treated me with barely disguised contempt. How isolated I had gradually become. "Classic abuse tactics," Jack said bluntly. "They isolated you, undermined your confidence, and now they are trying to humiliate you into submission." Abuse. The word felt strange. Men did not talk about being abused by their wives. What would you call deliberately locking someone out in dangerous weather conditions, then laughing about it and demanding they apologize? Jack asked. If you had done that to her, everyone would call it abuse. He was right, and the realization was both painful and clarifying. "You need to protect yourself legally," Jack advised. "My cousin Michael is an attorney. He can tell you what steps to take." By that afternoon, I had spoken with Michael, who specialized in family law. His advice was straightforward: document everything secure, my personal documents, and any separate financial accounts, and consider filing for legal separation immediately. If they were willing to put you in physical danger once, they might escalate, he warned. Emotional abuse often turns financial, or worse. That night, Amanda called again. This time, her tone had shifted slightly. "Dwayne, this has gone on long enough," she said, trying to sound reasonable. "My parents are upset. We need to talk about this like adults." "I agree we need to talk," I said calmly. "But not today, and not at our house." "Where are you staying?" she demanded. "Somewhere safe," I repeated from our earlier conversation. "Are you with a woman?" she asked suddenly, her voice sharp with accusation. The irony was almost laughable. She had locked me out in a blizzard, and now she was concerned about my fidelity. "I am staying with a friend," I said. "I will call you tomorrow to arrange a time to talk." I hung up before she could respond. The next day brought a new development. Jack's sister Rachel, a CPA, called me. After her brother explained my situation. "Jack told me about what happened," she said after introducing herself. "This might be none of my business, but there is something you should know. The firm I work for was approached about handling an audit for your father-in-law's investment company." "Okay," I said, not seeing the connection. "We turned it down because the preliminary documents raised some serious red flags. Tax evasion, possibly fraud. I obviously cannot share details, but if I were married to someone whose family might be under investigation soon, I would want to know." The pieces suddenly clicked into place. Thomas's increasing interest in my career prospects over the past few weeks. The hushed conversations between him and Amanda that stopped whenever I entered the room. Even Brian's increased presence at our house when he normally avoided visiting us. They needed something from me. Perhaps they thought my construction background could help them hide money in real estate transactions. Or maybe they just wanted a fall guy if things went south. Whatever their plan, it explained the timing of their visit and their increasing hostility when I did not immediately jump to help with whatever they were plotting. By the third day away from home, my inbox was overflowing with messages, 47 inches total, from Amanda, her parents, and Brian. The tone had completely changed. "Please come home, we need to talk about something important. Amanda, son, we may have gotten off on the wrong foot. Call me. Thomas, Dwayne. Dear, we were just having a bit of fun. Family jokes, you know. Please call Amanda, she is devastated. Judith, hey man, sorry about the other night. No hard feelings. Brian." The most revealing message came as a voicemail I accidentally recorded when Amanda called while I was talking with Michael. I had pressed the answer button but set the phone down without speaking. The message captured Amanda talking with her family, not realizing I could hear. "He still is not answering. What am I supposed to do?" Amanda's voice. "Try again. We need him right now." Thomas, sounding stressed. "Tell him you will give him another chance." Judith's voice, calculating. "Another chance? He is the one who walked out." Amanda protested. "Just do it, Amanda." Thomas again. "The audit is in 2 weeks. We need his name on those property transfers. He has no business sense. He will never know what we are doing." "Just promise him anything," Brian chimed in. "Once we are clear of this audit, you can divorce him and take half of whatever he has left anyway." I sat there, phone in hand, a strange calm settling over me. The final piece of the puzzle had fallen into place. I had been nothing but a tool to them from the beginning. Amanda had never loved me. Or if she had, that love was conditional on what I could provide, or what use I could be to her family. It was time to take control of my life again. I arranged to meet Amanda at a coffee shop the next day. I arrived early and chose a table in the corner where I could see the door. When she walked in with her parents and Brian, I almost got up and left. I had specified that we meet alone, but then I reconsidered. Maybe it was better to deal with all of them at once. Amanda had made an effort with her appearance. Hair perfectly styled, wearing the blue dress she knew I liked. She approached with a practiced look of concern. "Dwayne, I am so glad you agreed to meet," she said, reaching for my hands across the table. I kept mine firmly around my coffee cup. "We have been so worried." Thomas stepped forward. "Son, we owe you an apology. That night got out of hand. It was just a bit of family fun that went too far." "Family fun," I repeated. "Locking someone out in below freezing temperatures during a blizzard is fun to you." "We never meant for you to leave," Judith interjected smoothly. "We were going to let you in after just a minute or two." How were we supposed to know you would wander off? Brian nodded vigorously. Total misunderstanding, bro. I looked at each of their faces, concerned, apologetic, earnest, and saw nothing but calculation. I heard your voicemail, I said simply. The change was immediate. Amanda's face froze. Thomas straightened up, his fake friendly demeanor evaporating. What voicemail? Amanda asked carefully. The one where you all discussed using me for property transfers to hide money from an audit. The one where Brian suggested Amanda could divorce me afterward and take half of whatever I had left. Silence fell over the table. Thomas recovered first. You misunderstood a private conversation, he said firmly, and recording us without consent is illegal in this state. I did not record you intentionally, I replied. But my lawyer now has a copy, just in case anything happens to me. Another lie. Michael had advised me not to tell them about the recording yet, but it had the desired effect. Judith paled visibly. Dwayne, Amanda tried again, her voice soft and pleading. Now, our family is going through a difficult time. We need your help. After everything we have done for you, what exactly have you done for me, Amanda? I asked. Besides, lie, manipulate, and treat me like I am worthless. The moment I hit a rough patch, I married you. She snapped, her mask slipping. When you had nothing. And there it was. The truth she had always held back. In her mind, marrying me had been an act of charity. This meeting is over, I said, standing up. I will be filing for divorce. I have already moved my personal belongings out of the house. You and your family can continue to stay there until the divorce is finalized, as long as nothing of mine is damaged or removed. You cannot do this to me, Amanda said, her voice rising. Not now, actually I can, I replied. And you did this to yourself the moment you decided I was expendable. Thomas stepped forward, his face tight with anger. Listen here. No, I cut him off. You listen. I have documentation of your conversation about the audit. I have pictures of the bruises from nearly getting frostbite that night. I have text messages from all of you showing a clear pattern of emotional abuse. If you threaten me or try to contest this divorce in any way, I will take everything I have to the IRS and let them know exactly what your family has been planning. It was a gamble. I did not know exactly what they had been doing, only that it was likely illegal, but it worked. Thomas stepped back, his face ashen. I turned to leave, then paused and looked back at Amanda. By the way, I spoke with the contractor who worked on your parents' vacation home last year. He remembered me from the industry. Apparently, your father tried the same scam with him, getting free work by promising to invest in his business, then backing out once the project was complete. That part was true. I had made some calls and discovered the Arnolds had a history of using people and discarding them. You people deserve each other, I said finally, then walked out the door without looking back. The weeks that followed were some of the hardest of my life. Finding temporary housing, separating our finances, filing for divorce, none of it was easy. But for the first time in years, I felt like I was standing on solid ground. Jack let me stay in his spare room until I found an apartment I could afford. Sophia from the diner became a friend, sometimes stopping by with food when she knew I was having a particularly difficult day. I even started seeing a counselor to work through the emotional aftermath of the relationship. What you experienced was abuse. Dr. Marquez told me during our second session. Men can be victims too, though society often makes it harder for them to recognize or acknowledge it. She helped me see the patterns that had been present throughout my relationship with Amanda, the subtle put-downs, the isolation from friends and family, the constant moving of goalposts, so I could never quite measure up. I also reconnected with my parents who had sensed something was wrong but had been kept at a distance by Amanda's skilled manipulations. She always had some reason why we could not visit, or why you two were too busy to come see us. My mother explained when I finally told them everything. We should have tried harder to stay connected. It is not your fault, I assured her. Isolation is part of how abusers control people. The divorce proceedings were surprisingly straightforward. Amanda's family, facing their own legal troubles with the tax audit, did not contest anything. In the end, we split our assets cleanly, and I walked away with my dignity intact. With my construction experience and contacts in the industry, I started my own small renovation business. Nothing fancy at first. Just me, and occasionally, a hired helper taking on residential projects. But word spread about my reliability and fair pricing, and soon I had a steady stream of work. 6 months after that snowy night, I was working on a kitchen remodel when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was Amanda. "Can we talk? Please." I almost ignored it, but curiosity got the better of me. We met at the same coffee shop as before, but this time she came alone. The change in her was striking. Gone was the perfectly polished woman, with expensive clothes and carefully styled hair. She looked tired, her designer outfit replaced by jeans and a simple sweater. "Thank you for meeting me," she said, a humility in her voice I had never heard before. "What do you want, Amanda?" I asked directly. "To apologize," she said, "for everything. Not just that night, but for how I treated you throughout our marriage." I waited, saying nothing. "My family's business is gone," she continued after a moment. "Dad is facing charges for tax evasion. Brian had to take a job as a car salesman." She smiled bitterly. "They blame me, for losing you. They say if I had kept you happy, you would have helped them hide their illegal activities. Is that why you are apologizing?" "Because you regret losing a potential accomplice." She flinched. "I deserve that. But no, that is not why." She looked down at her coffee. "When everything fell apart, I had no one. All our so-called friends were only there for the lifestyle. My family only cared about what I could do for them. I realized that you were the only person who ever truly cared about me, not what I could provide." "Too little too late," I said, though, without malice. She nodded. "I know. I am not asking for another chance. I just wanted you to know that I understand now what I threw away. And I am truly sorry for the pain I caused you." We talked for about an hour. Not as former spouses trying to reconcile, but as two people acknowledging a shared history and moving on. When we parted, I felt a weight lift that I had not even realized I was still carrying. A year after the Snowstorm incident, my business was thriving. I had moved into a comfortable one-bedroom apartment, adopted a dog from the shelter, and even started dating again occasionally. Nothing serious, but it was progress. The most important change, though, was inside me. I had learned to value myself enough to walk away from people who did not. I had discovered that sometimes losing everything you thought you wanted opens the door to finding what you actually need. The family that locked me out in the cold that night accidentally set me free. Their cruelty became my wake-up call. Their attempt to break me became the catalyst for rebuilding myself stronger than before. Have you ever had a betrayal that ultimately led to something better in your life? Share your story in the comments below. I read every comment and would love to hear how you turned pain into progress. If this story helped you in any way, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more authentic life experiences. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes walking away is the bravest step you will ever take.